Hello, dragonflies! Welcome to the Gilmore Gals podcast, where we take a deep dive into each episode of the beloved show.
We're your hosts, Sarah
and Ani.
We're huge Gilmore Girls fans, and we're besties. In this podcast, we talk about everything Gilmore, from the pop culture references to the tiniest minutia only a true Gilmore nerd would care about.
Copper boom! Hi, Sarah.
Hey, Ani, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
What have you been up to today?
I did a little bit of yoga, working on a photo collage for my father-in-law's birthday.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. How about you?
Same yoga and, with the most intense yogi I've ever seen. Ever. The things this guy could do with his body blew my mind. Insane. I'm like, oh gosh. And he's like, if you can't reach the ground from here, don't worry. I've been doing this for 10 years. And I'm like, yeah, well, so that was intense. Should we get started?
Let's jump right in.
All right. Today we're going to be doing season 1, episode 13, Concert Interruptus, which was written by Elaine Arata and directed by Bruce Seth Green. So for our synopsis, this episode first aired on February 15th, 2001. Stars Hollow is holding a town-wide rummage sale for charity in order to repair the bridge. And Lorelai, of course, is organizing the whole thing. Rory is grouped with Paris, Madeline, and Louise for a class presentation, unfortunately. And to help Rory bond with her would-be tour mentors, Lorelai generously gives up her amazing tickets to see the Bangles play in New York. The evening does not go as planned, but Rory and Paris do end up finding common ground and a certain begrudging respect.
And for today's Fast Facts, because the girls go to a Bangles concert, I decided to do a bit of a deep dive on the Bangles.
Yay!
Yay! The Bangles have been around for as long as I can remember, and they have some amazing songs. The LA-based band was founded in the early 1980s by Susanna Hoffs, who was the guitarist and vocalist, Debbie Peterson, who played drums, guitar, and also helped with vocals, and Debbie's sister, Vicky Peterson, who played guitar and also did vocals, and Annette Zielinskis, who played bass for the group. However, Annette left the group early on and was replaced by Michael Steele, who was a former member of another all-female group, the Runaways. The band signed with CBS Columbia Records, and hit single after hit single followed, including Manic Monday, which, fun fact, is my go-to karaoke song.
Nice.
Walk Like an Egyptian, and Eternal Flame, which was one of my favorite songs when I was a little kid. And after a 10-year hiatus, the band was back in the studio and recorded a song for the Austin Powers The Spy Who Shagged Me soundtrack called Get the Girl. In 2000, the band began touring again, which is probably the tour attended by our girls. Bassist Michael Steele retired in 2005, but the other 3 members are continuing to record and tour with guest bassists. I'll post a pic in our socials. The women all look stunning even now. You know, I feel like the 70s and 80s had so many amazing girl groups, but you hardly ever see that anymore. Have you noticed that?
That's true. I feel like Destiny's Child, and then I can't think of anything else.
Yeah.
Oh, the Spice Girls, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if any of them can play any instruments.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? Michael Steele, this is a chick?
Yes, yeah, her name is Michael Steele,
Wow.
not the MSNBC guy.
Right. I was like, Michael Steele, what's going on here? That's so neat. You know, in that show, Star Trek Discovery, the lead character is a woman named Michael. How weird.
Cool.
Yeah.
I knew a Michael that was a woman. She was named after her father because he always wanted a son and never got one. So
That's neat. I like that.
yeah.
I love that song too, by the way.
Eternal Flame.
Eternal Flame. So pretty.
So good.
Oh, and then Walk Like an Egyptian is a good one too.
Oh, it's so good.
And
They
then-
really have a lot of good songs.
They do. And then Manic Monday is actually featured in another episode. Lorelai sings it briefly.
Oh, does she?
Yeah.
Hmm.
We'll get to that.
Yes. So this episode opens with the Gilmore Girls in Lorelai's bedroom. She's looking through her overflowing closet, trying to find stuff to give away for the town's charity rummage sale. And to me, this episode is also known as Lorelai and the Bedazzled Bandanas because she wears different ones in at least two scenes throughout this episode.
That cool. We get a peek into Lorelai's appalling sense of taste. Aside from the bedazzled, which I love, oh my gosh, there's this red and black halter top with rhinestones and zebra stripes and tassels that she's had since high school. It's just hideous. And there's a lot of scenes in many episodes where I'm just like, what is she wearing? Oh my God. But you know what? I still have stuff from high school. How about you?
Not really. The only clothes that I still have from high school are the t-shirts that we had made for the plays that I was in.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, they were really cool. And then like we would all like the cast and crew, we would all sign each other's shirts and stuff. So
it's a nice idea.
Rory calls Lorelai a hopeless pack rat as she's childishly resisting getting rid of any of her stuff, despite the fact that the rummage sale was her idea, plus she volunteered to organize and run it.
Rory runs out of patience with her mother and just grabs a giant chunk of what's hanging in Lorelai's closet.
And she then gives the instruction, I want you to open up this dresser and take out everything you'd be embarrassed to be wearing in a car accident.
This scene is one of many in the series where the girls switch roles and Rory suddenly becomes the grown-up while Lorelai acts super immature and petulant.
Indeed. Well, next we find Rory and Lane organizing one of the many giant piles of donations in the Gilmore living room. The piles are threatening to take over the entire house. And my favorite piece is the kittens in a toilet picture. Did you?
Oh my God. That's so awful. Among the donors who drop off items are Luke and Taylor, who of course wants to practically write a user manual for the dishes he's donating. Taylor, he's such a micromanager. Because, dishes are complicated.
Yes. Which one do I drink out of? Okay. Lorelai is going through and she finds an old hoodie that is bedazzled with rhinestones and naturally wants to keep it because it has Lorelai written all over it.
Mm-hmm. It also has Ani written all over it. I'll take anything with sparkles, anything with glitter. I was gonna say I'm like a magpie, but I went and looked it up, and a study in 2014 found that there's no real evidence that they're attracted to shiny things. So there you go, myth debunked.
Interesting. Well, Rory tells her to put it back because the whole point of the rummage sale is to get rid of crap, not just trade it in for new crap.
But she eventually gives in, like one would with a child, because she knows they're just going to get rid of it at next year's rummage sale.
And then Sookie comes bounding in, super excited, with 4 tickets to see the Bangles in New York City. That means Lane gets to go too. And what is that door that she entered? Did you notice? Because she enters in through the living room.
Yes, there is a door there. That door remains there, but I don't think it's ever used again.
Oh, I'd never noticed it before. And I was like, wait, where is she coming from?
Well, because the house technically has a wraparound porch.
Yeah.
So there would be doors all over.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't think they ever use it again. It was really weird.
And of course, Lorelai decides to use the concert as an excuse to hoard even more of the donation so that she has something to wear for the concert. The next scene is at Chilton in Rory's class, where a moody Tristan Dugray is staring absent-mindedly and intently at Rory for some reason.
The teacher finally notices and asks, "What is fascinating, Mr. Dugray?" And he, of course, is not at all embarrassed, and a few seconds later resumes his staring, so the teacher calls him out on it again.
She asks him if he thinks what she was just talking about sounds like more fun than staring at Miss Gilmore's ear.
And poor Rory, she looks mortified and super uncomfortable.
I don't blame her.
I know.
Then the teacher proceeds to assign students to groups for a debate and naturally puts Rory in a group with Paris and her minions, Madeline and Louise.
Paris wants to confirm who the teacher meant to put her with, and she weirdly stands up to get the teacher's attention. I always thought that was so weird. Like, why not just raise your hand?
Yeah, that was really awkward.
Yeah.
Incidentally, we learn here what the minions' last names are: Madeline Lynn and Louise Grant.
I don't think we ever hear that again.
Yeah, I guess not. I don't know.
So Paris sits down and she and Rory look at each other with a look that seems to say not so much "I hate you," but more like, "Oh crap." Like, here we go.
I can relate. Oh,
I
I
know.
hated group projects.
So much. I always ended up doing all the work.
Me too. Yep. Well, next, the four girls are out in the hall figuring out the logistics of where they'll be meeting up to work on their projects.
Paris says her place is out because her mother is in the midst of an entire post-divorce remodeling.
And Madeline's place is out because her brother has the measles, and Louise's place is out because her mom is having an affair.
So Rory volunteers her place with the caveat that her house is a disaster area due to the rummage sale.
Suddenly, Tristan sidles up to Paris and very noticeably starts flirting with her in order to make Rory jealous, which of course wouldn't work because Rory has zero interest in him anyway.
Once he leaves, Paris tries to downplay her obvious glee at the attention from Tristan, but you can see a huge smile on her face as she walks away.
I feel so bad for Paris, so
I don't know. She's awful, but Liza Wheel is such a good actress that she makes you feel for her.
definitely. Yeah.
Mhm.
In the next scene, we see Rory filling Lane in on the news, and she goes, "Wow, all three of them, huh?"
To which Rory replies, "Double, double, toil and trouble." And in case y'all are curious, that's a reference to a quote from the Three Witches in Macbeth.
And then Rory completes the line with, "By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes."
Rory and Lane start going over their cover story for the night of the concert, and Lane reasons that the word movie is definitely out because it's too far from the truth and is basically a lie.
However, the word play is good enough to the truth to allow her to, quote, negotiate a purgatory stint.
So they enter Kim's Antiques, and Lane approaches her mom to ask permission to go with Rory tomorrow.
Unfortunately, she accidentally uses the word show rather than play, and Mrs. Kim is immediately suspicious.
She starts grilling Lane, who predictably crumbles under the pressure. So the chances of her getting to go to the concert start looking pretty slim.
Well, next, Rory enters Luke's, and she notices that there's a sign for the rummage sale on the diner window.
She teases him about it because everyone knows Luke is the town grump and doesn't like public displays of town affection.
And he tells her that Lorelai asked him to put it there, and she's not real good with no.
This is true. Lorelai walks in wearing a crazy-looking cowboy hat plus the bedazzled hoodie she found earlier. She calls it a sweater, but it's definitely a hoodie, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Well, Luke sees the hoodie and he gets irrationally angry with Lorelai for wearing it. He throws a tantrum and says, "Pour your own coffee," and then storms off, leaving the Gilmore girls more than a little confused.
That was so weird.
That was
I mean,
weird.
he has temper issues, but like,
Yeah.
your own coffee.
It's like, dude, calm down.
He's the one who's always like, "Don't go behind the counter. Don't go behind." And it's like, "Pour your own
Yeah.
coffee." In the next scene, we see the mess at the Gilmore Girls' house has at least doubled in size. One of the piles tries to eat Sookie.
Rory walks in and says, "Geez, this stuff's like Tribbles," which is a reference to the original Star Trek episode, The Trouble with Tribbles, in which these adorable little fluff balls continually reproduce until the Enterprise is overrun.
Okay, A, I didn't hear her say that line. How did I miss that? And
I don't know.
love Tribbles. So cute.
I was so excited because Mikey, my husband, and I just recently watched the whole original series of Star Trek. We just finished it. And so I actually knew what a Tribble was. And so I was excited to get that reference.
How did I miss that line?
I don't know. She kind of mumbles it. Maybe that's how, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Good catch.
Thanks. Next, Rory gets a call from Lane, who decided to be stupid and told her mom the truth about the concert. So naturally, Lane is out.
Miss Patty is rummaging around and she finds the mysterious hoodie that Lorelai was wearing earlier. And she says, "Well, this looks really familiar. Who brought it in?"
Lorelai says it must have been Luke, and he had a super hostile reaction when he saw her wearing it. And Miss Patty says, "Oh my, I bet this was Rachel's."
And Sookie goes, "Oh my God, Rachel's?" And she says the hoodie looks like her. But later we meet Rachel in another episode, and that hoodie looks nothing like her. She's way too granola to wear something bedazzled like that, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, we find out then that Rachel was Luke's very serious girlfriend about 5 or 6 years ago, and she just broke his heart.
Now, I think we get a little bit of a timelines conflict here because Sookie says Lorelai didn't know about Rachel because at the time she was just moving into their house and she had an 11-year-old kid. So she was pretty preoccupied or whatever. But I could have sworn, tell me if I'm wrong, Lorelai and Rory have been in that house way longer than 5 or 6 years ago.
That was my question too. Like, I felt like they had been there a lot longer. And then also, that town is so small,
Mhm.
and Lorelai goes to Luke's all the time. How did she not know about Rachel?
Yeah, I don't think this makes any sense,
No,
Emily.
it doesn't, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, it also turns out that Rachel was never really around because she traveled all the time, though Sookie and Miss Patty can't quite remember if she was a photographer, an archaeologist, or a flight attendant. I don't know, one of those. They're all so
Yeah,
similar.
exactly. So Luke doesn't like to talk about it, and nobody mentions it because he's scary.
Well, Paris and her minions then pull up in a fancy convertible sports car, and Lorelai says to Rory, "She must be one great babysitter to earn enough money for that car."
So ridiculous. Who gives a teenager a fancy car? That's so stupid.
I
They're
know
just
mine was
gonna ding it up.
exactly. My first car was a 1986 Buick Park Avenue. That thing was a boat.
Nice. Mine was a used Mazda Protege 93.
Wow, nice.
This would have been 2000, so pretty old at the time.
Yeah. Yeah,
But it was
mine
great.
I got mine in like 98, I think. So, yeah.
It was great. I named it Bing. It was adorable.
Mine was blue.
Oh, was it blue?
No, it was orange. Yeah, yeah, it was blue.
You're so funny. So Rory looks absolutely miserable. She sees these chicks arrive. So Lorelai says, "Take heart, my dear. Supper today, party tonight." So Paris and the minions are, of course, super rude and kind of stuck up as usual, especially Louise. She's looking around the house like she's surrounded by piles of garbage instead of clothes.
Lorelai introduces herself, no doubt hoping that the girls will warm up if they find a friendly and welcoming environment. She was wrong, and so she leaves.
Louise and Madeline start finding interesting treasures in the piles of rummage sale donations, and Paris grows increasingly irritated because they're not getting down to work.
And the conversation then drifts towards boys naturally. And Madeline mentions that Rory's boyfriend is no slouch. Remember, they met him at the dance where he nearly killed Tristan for being a jerk to Rory.
That was such a great scene.
That
I love
was.
it. One of the few times when I'm like, yeah, go, Dean. So Louise asks how that relationship is going and how long it's been. And when Rory answers about a month, Louise goes, "Aw, lifers."
I thought that was so cute.
So funny. Do you remember when 3 months felt like an eternity?
Yeah. Well, up in her bedroom, Lorelai and Sookie are sewing up articles of clothing that need repair. And Lorelai asks Sookie to tell her about this Rachel chick, supposedly because everyone else knows the story and she doesn't like to be out of the loop.
But you can tell from her face that Sookie sees right through this and knows that Lorelai is only curious because she's got a thing for Luke. We found out that Rachel moved around a lot and was very adventurous. Perfect for a guy like Luke, right?
Yeah.
Sookie says she thought they would get married, but the rumor was that Stars Hollow was too small for her, and she wanted adventure in the great wide somewhere.
Did she want it more than she could tell?
Yes.
But Luke was born and raised in Stars Hollow, and he's not going anywhere. And Sookie says, "I think we're going to have to bury him in that diner." And that's a small town for you. Like, people don't like to leave.
But you left.
I did, and I'm very glad. And that's why, like, now, like, I tell anybody, like my nieces, my nephew, any like kids that I know, from out there, is to get out. You can go back. There's nothing wrong with going back, but there's a lot more to the world besides your small town.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that. So Sookie leaves to get ready for the concert, and we see Lorelai looking pensively at the Rachel hoodie, maybe considering giving it back to Luke since it obviously means a lot to him.
As Sookie heads out, she says, "Rory, see you tonight." And Louise, of course, asks what they're doing tonight. And so Rory fills her in.
Rory says she's going with Sookie and her mom to a concert, and both Madeline and Louise are shocked at the idea of doing something like that with a mom.
Rory shares that her mom had her at 16, and Madeline asks if Rory thinks that she was sorry to get pregnant so young.
Paris immediately answers, "Of course she is," to which Rory replies, "Why, thank you."
And then Paris uncharacteristically shows some remorse and tries to explain what she meant. But Rory interrupts and says, "I don't think she'd recommend it, but I think she's happy with how things turned out."
So Lorelai comes downstairs to ask the girls if they're ready for pizza and heads to the kitchen to place the order. And after a minute, she yells for Rory to join her so they can chat.
And so then Rory enters the kitchen and we see Lorelai making an appetizer platter of Pop-Tarts.
So she literally opened 1,000 packages of Pop-Tarts.
No.
You can see on the counter 2 whole boxes. First of all, who buys Pop-Tarts in multiple boxes at a time? Who does that? Right?
Well, when they're on sale.
I guess so. And then she opens all of the packages and she arranges them all pretty on a plate. And then to balance out the nutrition, which is appalling, she puts an apple in the middle. Yeah, that'll fix it.
Yeah. I'm like, that's a waste of Pop-Tarts. Don't do it.
No. And that's before the pizza. She's like,
I know.
Hold you over till the pizza
Well,
comes. I'm like, what?
I mean, the theme of the Gilmore Girls is they apparently can eat. I don't know where they put it.
They can eat and they never gain weight and they eat like 1,000,000 calories a day.
Yeah. Well, Lorelai asks how things are going, and she's encouraged that things are going relatively smoothly. So she asks if Rory would maybe like to offer the remaining 3 concert tickets to Paris, Madeline, and Louise.
Rory protests, saying that Lorelai has been anxiously waiting for the concert since she heard about the tour, but Lorelai assures her that she and Sookie can just buy cheap seats when they get there. And she really wants Rory to cultivate friendships while she's at Chilton to make the next few years bearable.
Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think I would be giving up ninth row aisle seats to a concert that I have been dying to see. Sorry, kid.
I would take a bullet for my kid, but I wouldn't do this because those girls suck and they don't deserve it.
Exactly. Well, next we're in New York City for the big concert, and Lorelai hands over the tickets to Rory, and we learn that the Bangles were Lorelai's favorite band in high school, which makes sense. And in fact, she almost named Rory Susanna.
Why does it make sense?
Well, just because she was looking so forward to the concert.
Oh, yeah.
So it would make sense that she's been a longtime fan.
And yet she gives them up those seats.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very generous.
Very.
Lorelai tells the girls to meet them outside immediately after the concert, and the 4 girls head to their amazing seats, and Sookie and Lorelai head off to make their noses bleed.
Well, as the girls find their seats, Madeline and Louise immediately find a couple of boys to flirt with. And one of those fellas is Brandon Routh, who played Superman in the 2005 movie Superman Returns.
You know, I actually enjoyed that movie. I thought he did a good job, but apparently it was a financial flop, so they didn't decide to move forward with a sequel.
Yeah, I kind of liked it too.
Yeah, I thought he was really good at it.
Well, you can tell that Paris is annoyed at Madeline and Louise and their constant boy craziness. And she says, and before it's dark, they'll have every picnic basket that's in Jellystone Park. Now, for the youngins out there, that is a reference to the classic Hanna-Barbera animated series Yogi Bear about the smarter than your average bear who loves to steal picnic baskets from campers. Did you know that there's actually a chain of Jellystone Park campgrounds across the U.S.?
Shut up.
Yes, they are predominantly across the Midwest and eastern end of the country, but there's a smattering of locations across the southern states and some of the plain states as well.
That's adorable. Do you think that kids don't know about Yogi Bear nowadays?
I don't know.
Probably not, right?
Well, didn't they make a movie not too long ago?
Oh, I think they did.
Right?
I don't know
Yeah.
how, but yeah, I think they did.
Yeah.
I watched that as a kid. Did you?
Yeah. Oh, I loved Yogi Bear. I loved all those cartoons.
Yeah, me too.
Well, meanwhile, Lorelai and Sookie have made it to the second to the last row up in the mezzanine, and they both just burst out laughing as Lorelai says that these are the worst seats in the world.
The guys next to them are like, "Excuse me."
I know.
We get treated to some live Bangles music, while Rory and Paris appear to bond over their mutual amusement about Madeline and Louise's flirtatious behavior.
And Rory even catches Paris smiling and looking like she's actually enjoying herself.
It's amazing. I think it might be the first time we've seen her smile, except for, that Tristan thing.
Yeah.
So as an aside, I just want to throw this out there because I'm 152,000 years old and I hate this. You know, when you go to concerts and there are seats, but everyone decides to stand, and I'm like, look, if you stand up, then everyone behind you has to stand up. And I find that really rude. Why aren't
Me
we using the
too.
seats?
Me too.
It's just because I'm old.
Well, I guess I've always been old then because
Yeah, me too.
Well, during what is objectively the Bangles' best song, Eternal Flame, Lorelai decides it's a good time to start chatting, which, let me just point out, is impossible to do at an indoor concert. And same goes for the previous scene with Madeline and Louise flirting with the guys. There's no way that they could hear themselves think, let alone talk, especially with seats so close to that stage.
Yeah, what I normally do is like, I'll have the person yell into my ear as I cover up my ear, and
Yeah.
I can hear them.
Or you can take your best guess as to what was said. That's
Try to
what
lip
usually
read.
happens with me. Smile and nod.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Lorelai asked Sookie if Rachel was pretty, and then what kind of pretty? Like a Catherine Zeta-Jones kind of pretty, or a Michelle Pfeiffer kind of pretty?
And Suki starts rolling her eyes and she's like, she was an Elle McPherson kind of pretty. And Lorelai says, not incorrectly, that's an intense kind of pretty.
That is an intense kind of pretty. So
Mhm.
Lorelai tries to act all chill about it, but in the end, Sookie puts her finger on it. Lorelai is jealous of Rachel.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Back with the young girls, Louise tells Rory that the guys that they've been talking to invited them to a big party just around the corner. And Rory reminds her that they have to meet up with Lorelai after the concert.
Louise's lame response is, "What are you afraid?" And of course, Rory very reasonably replies, "Of going out into a strange city with two guys I don't know? Yeah."
Maybe it's because I'm old now, but that was such a reckless thing to do.
Mhm.
Especially because, and Gen Zers get ready to faint. There were no smartphones then.
Right. That's so
Yeah,
dangerous.
it's so dangerous. So Louise and Madeline decide that they're going to leave anyway, and they just expect Paris to go along. But she's like, no thanks. She's actually enjoying herself for maybe the first time in her life.
Yeah. So Rory says, "Just what am I supposed to tell my mom?" And Louise responds snarkily, "That you're a very good little girl."
So rude.
So
Uh,
rude.
Here they got free tickets to a concert in New York City, and they are just so ungrateful.
Well, they're just entitled rich little brats, you know?
Yeah.
So after the show, they're waiting for her mom, and Rory asks Paris what she could possibly see in Tristan. He's just such a jerk.
Paris defends him, of course, and says, not always. And we find out that they've known each other since kindergarten. And she tells Rory, I know he's flirting with me to get to you, but at least he's flirting with me. And that just made me so sad.
No, it's a bummer. And he's such a jerk.
Such a jerk. Well, Lorelai and Sookie show up with concert t-shirts for everyone. And do you know how expensive those things are?
That's exactly what I thought. I was like, this is just another example of Lorelai spending insane amounts of money on something. Like,
Yeah, I mean, that had to be at least $200.
oh my God, so crazy. And for those girls who are awful.
Exactly. Ugh. So Rory, of course, has to tell her mom what happened with the minions.
I find this entire next scene that comes up here highly improbable and therefore kind of annoying. So all they have to go on is that the party is in a building at this particular intersection that,
Mhm.
Madeline tells Rory. Now, if I remember what cities look like, right? I don't live in a big city, but this could mean there are 4 apartment buildings that they need to search, right? If it's an intersection, am I understanding this right?
Yeah.
They're going to go to every single door on every single floor in all 4 apartment buildings in New York. That's just asking for trouble.
I know.
Just a couple knocks later, they get it right. Yeah, I'm not buying it.
No. Well, side note, the lady who answers the first door they knock on, she says, I don't talk to anybody. People annoy me. And that lady is me. Well, they find the party eventually, and Lorelai is rightfully pissed off. She drags Madeline and Louise out of the party and gives them quite the tongue lashing right there in the hallway. Afterward, Paris goes up to Rory and says, you know what? I think this is the best night I've ever had.
Aw, that's kind of sweet. It's the next day, and we're in the town square for the rummage sale, and Lorelai and Rory are talking about the events of the night before.
One good thing came out of the whole ordeal. Paris agreed to let Rory split the debate time with her. And with Paris, that's equivalent to the whole spitting on your palms and shaking hands friendship oath thing, but way less gross.
Lorelai goes up to Luke, who apologizes for being a jerk the other day, and she convinces him to take back the Rachel hoodie. He makes sure Lorelai knows that he's just remembering, not pining.
Mm-hmm. Did you notice he has a soul patch in this scene?
What?
Like he's scruffy, but on his chin is a more like pronounced like patch.
No.
Like it looks like a soul patch.
No way. I think it's just because he has a butt chin, so maybe it just like
Maybe it could just be the lighting because he definitely has like scruff, but yeah, I was like, oh my God, does he have a soul patch?
How could I have missed a soul patch? There's no way.
Go back and look at it.
Do you remember? Apollo Anton Ono, the speed skater with the soul patch.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I used to, one of the managers at the retail store I used to work at, he had a soul patch.
Just like men, just because you can grow hair on your face doesn't mean you should. Think about this, gentlemen.
Oh, man.
And that was Concert Interruptus.
Join us next time as we discuss season 1, episode 14, That Damn Donna Reed.
Copper boom.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and share with your friends.
If you have any questions or comments, if you feel like we left anything out or got anything wrong, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at the Gilmore Gals Pod. And we also have a Facebook page.
Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes.
Copper boom!